He is coming with a very bold and strong agenda, and he wants to not just change the US policies, he wants to restructure the seats of power.
He has more than that, civil and criminal. Do you think he would override those as well?
The specter of changing and taking on the establishment. Judiciary remains a major challenge that he needs to surmount. What should the Make America Great Again?
Trump forces ending the Ukraine war on Russian terms, it would reshape that entire European security concepts.
What should Pakistan expect from Trump?
Trump presidency pushes harder on Pakistan to isolate ourselves from China. I do not believe that Trump administration would exert any pressure on Pakistan to go easy on PTI or Mr. Khan. With a fresh episode of The Weekend, I am Murtaza Solangi.
And I am Muhammad Ali.
Last weekend, when we were discussing the prospects for US elections, there were a lot of speculations and survey polls and exit polls that came afterwards. But we knew that it was close. And as we are talking right now, there is a 3-percentage point difference in terms of the popular votes. Around 69 million votes for Kamala and around, I think, 72 73 million, something like that, votes for Mr. Trump. He has won the Electoral College. So come Monday, January 20th, Mr. Trump would be administered the oath of 47th President of United States. This election was watched around the globe, including Pakistan and South Asia, but mainly the trouble spots in the world today, like Ukraine and Gaza. And it was very much watched and observed in Kremlin and Beijing. So here we are. The results are out. People have spoken. And not only the people have spoken, but the current occupants of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Mr. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they also have spoken, and they have said, unlike January 6, 2020, this would be a very peaceful and smooth transfer of power, and they would invite Mr. Trump shortly. They have already talked to him.
Yes.
So things would be quite smooth when it comes to transition. Would it be smooth afterwards, the next 4 years? That's something that we have to talk about. The agenda of Mr. Trump at home and his agenda abroad. His foreign policy, his economic policy, and other big issues that he has talked and galvanized his core constituency, his base, to get that number of votes is something that we need to talk about. So let's start with you. How do you see the results? And we know the campaign issues, but how is he going to implement his agenda? And what kind of impact it would have on the world at large.
Thank you, Murtaza. I think this time, when Mr. Trump is returning to White House, this is a different Mr. Trump. He has come out braver, bolder, and stronger than he was in the 45th presidency. Braver because he has survived 2 assassination attempts. Bolder because he took much bolder and unconventional stance, which he's famous for, than previous presidential campaign on domestic and international issues, which we'll shortly discuss. And stronger because not just that he's returning to White House, Republicans have secured support with a great majority, both in the House of Representatives and Senate, which means that the promises that he has made during the election campaign, he will have less friction and less opposition and less difficulty in the Capitol Hill, although he has a challenge with the US establishment. But again, I think this time, I believe that he is coming with a very bold and strong agenda, and he wants to not just change the US policies, he wants to restructure the seats of power and establishment, which includes State Department, which includes Pentagon, which includes Langley, which includes other departments.
Department of Justice.
Absolutely. And you would recall when Mr. Trump first arrived in the White House, almost 500 people who used to work in State Department resigned and refused to work for him. And this time, I think there is a lot of interest among conservative Republicans vying for some prize positions this time, which indicates that this time they see not just an opportunity to serve under Mr. Trump, but also they believe that they can survive and secure their own agendas and interests under his wings. So I think we have heard about the first appointment,
Yes.
which is the chief of staff, who used to be
His campaign manager.
Absolutely, his campaign manager.
Susie Wiles.
Absolutely. But I think the choice of his team will depend significantly on his values and vision. So it is very important that this time the same faces which occupied key appointments in his first administration might not be there because of 2 reasons. One, Trump is a hard taskmaster, and he has, not a lot of patience for incompetence. So I think a lot of people who were part of his team in the first administration might not make it this time. And secondly, his vision and his experience informs him to probably build a stronger, bigger, and newer team.
Before we talk about the agenda, what he would implement and what he won't, he has had set of problems, his personal problems, his legal woes. He was indicted. He was actually convicted on falsifying business records, 30 counts of misconduct.
Yes.
He was convicted this year. And now, after his conviction, now is the time for sentencing. And he has been called in New York on November 26th, just a few weeks before his oath taking. So where do you think, and he has more than that, civil and criminal. Do you think he would override those as well?
I think that's a very important question. While we focus a lot on his ambitious unconventional agenda, and the specter of changing and taking on the establishment. Judiciary remains a major challenge that he needs to surmount and is yet to be decided about his future. But the legal experts are of the view, including some of the top legal professors at Harvard and other law schools, they're of the view that unfortunately, politics always trumps law. And a lot of people who are pinning hopes that the legal system will rise to the challenge and perhaps hold Mr. Trump accountable might be disappointed.
I tend to share your vision. I don't have the details how he would do it.
Yes.
But as they say, possession is 9/10 of the law.
Indeed.
So once he has got the control of almost all branches of US government, he is about to take over his party, the House. As we sat down here recording this show, Republicans had already got 211. They need 218 seats, and there were 24 seats still undecided. So I don't see any problem that out of those 24, he cannot grab 7 more seats to lead the House of Representatives. Senate, he already has it. White House, both in popular vote as well as electoral college votes, he has more than what he needed. So I tend to agree with you that these legal woes and scandals that he remains indifferent to would do any harm to him. I think he would be the 47th president. But the bigger question is that what will happen to his domestic agenda, his anti-immigration stance, where he plans to organize and order mass deportation of people. I was just watching CNN, and they say he would need almost $1 trillion to execute this plan. What would happen to his tariff plan that he plans on having heavy tariffs on China and other world parts, including
India.
India. He called India a big abuser, while Modi is a tight buddy, but he talked about this tariff issues. So what would happen to that? How would he, implement his vision of no wars? We will end wars and we will not start new ones. So what happens to Ukraine? Mr. Zelensky might be, in a very tight spot as we speak. What happens there? And his buddy Bibi Netanyahu, who congratulated him, who talked to him. By the way, Modi also talked to him. So what happens to Iran-Israel conflict? There are just too many issues.
Absolutely, but let's try to simplify this and make sense of what he has promised and what he is likely to do. First off, I think he had a very astute, bold, and smart political narrative and strategy centered around the concerns of the conservative voters, but also the middle class, which cuts across race, ethnic, and linguistic lines, who were disappointed by the dismal performance of the Democrats. Secondly, the immigrant issue or the immigration issue was the centerpiece of his political strategy and narrative, because it has a very clear implications for his likely foreign policy, defense policy, and economic policy. For economic policy, he essentially captured and exploited the sense of grievance and disappointment among the working class American. And he has sort of secured some sympathy and support, even from the liberal elements, even from the blacks, even from the Muslims, even from the Afro-Caribbeans, even from the Mexicans, which has really shocked and surprised the Democrats. Secondly, by increasing the tariffs on China, India, and other countries, he's telling his voters that by making the American market more difficult for those countries which seek to challenge America in other domains of power, I'm trying to contain their rise economically, and I'm not going to grant them the American market for free. And in return, he's also promising to the Americans that we need to rebuild, rejuvenate the American industry and give more jobs to the American workers rather than giving our markets to Chinese and Indians. So that is a very smart strategy and a narrative. The third aspect is related to defense policy. When he promises that he will end the military support for Ukraine, that secures three objectives. Number one, it signals to the war-fatigued American heartland, which provides the rank and file of American military, which is tired of overseas campaigns spread over the last 20 years, that I'm not going to waste American blood for defending other nations. He is also telling the other countries that American money will not be available to be wasted on defending other countries, and Western Europe, including European Union and NATO, will have to pull up their socks and take care of their own security from their own resources. And that cuts across the third domain, which is foreign policy, that he has offered an olive branch to Putin, which has really worried the Europeans that now the American traditional security assurance and commitment will not be there, and we might also have to review our policy towards Moscow. However, he has promised that he is going to increase the economic coercion and pressure against Beijing, and this is something which worries Beijing. Although the initial comments from Beijing has been careful and positive, but they are really worried because America continues to represent the biggest export market for Chinese goods. And if there is a significant cost imposed on its products and services to America, it will be a big challenge for China to find substitute markets. So I think it's a very smart agenda. And most importantly, I will summarize it by saying that instead of relying heavily on the hard power, which Republicans have traditionally done under Nixon administration, under Reagan administration, and under Bush administration, Mr. Trump is perhaps the first Republican president who prefers economic coercion as the main instrument of American power to bring home more jobs, reduce market access to rising powers, and use it as an economic instrument of coercion against rising powers, instead of wasting American lives, blood, and money through hard power employment, through military intervention, and through unilateralism.
It would be very interesting to see when the next 4 years term expires after 4 years.
I think it will be a different world in 4 years.
Because the agenda that he is pushing, if he implements that, even his anti-immigration agenda, that would make a lot of people, even who can legally enter US and work there, make them more uncomfortable.
Yeah, I want you to explain it further. That what should the immigrants living in America, in the land of opportunity, mean? I mean, what should the "Make America Great Again" narrative mean for review of the American dream for the immigrants?
The loud and clear message of Trump campaign is that America is for white Anglo-Saxons. It's not for anybody else. Even what has been reported in media that he plans on changing immigration laws, that actually rescinding the American law where anybody who's born in United States, if he or she, that baby, is the son and daughter of a legal immigrant or illegal alien, would become US citizen, would end. If they go that path, it would send chills to people around the globe and would make United States not too favorable of a destination. And with this new fissures between Europe and United States, people would think twice. So I think it would have a lasting impact on the image of a nation that's basically an immigrant nation. Because if you exclude Native Americans, everybody else is an immigrant. They didn't, white Anglo-Saxons from Europe didn't go there getting a visa from Native American chiefs. So that whole thing, that the very image that whenever somebody is in trouble, you go to America to save your skin and limb, that would be the end of it.
So basically, you're saying that the American territory will no longer be a land of opportunity for those who see America as a land of opportunity, harbinger of liberal values, and a spearhead of democracy and the liberal agenda. And I think it could probably even impose serious stress on the US-led world order anchored around alliance systems, because both Western Europe and Eastern Asian allies heavily depend upon American security guarantees and defense support for their own foreign policy, and represents American sustainable influence in that region. If it represents review and sort of reduction of American hard power around the world, a review and reduction of American security guarantees towards its partners and allies around the world, I think this is going to make their traditional allies, whether it's NATO, whether it's South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, Australia, really worried. So who is going to spearhead the Western civilization now in terms of ideology, in terms of democracy, and the liberal values now?
It's a great question. The global order was already changing towards Asian century, even before this election. The rise of China, the rise of Russia, and a new configuration taking place between Europe and China and even Russia. If Trump forces ending the Ukraine war on Russian terms, it would reshape that entire European security concepts. So I think by the time Trump ends his presidency after 4 years, I would say a lasting impact would have already been taken on the global issues. So I think it would be very, very interesting. I don't think that this economic coercion by Trump presidency would succeed in containing China. The way Trump presidency wants to establish and reshape global economic relations, I think every country would think about their own interests, including India, and you would see new policies shaping up by the time Trump ends his presidency.
But one last question, Murtaza, would be that what should Pakistan expect from Trump?
A pragmatist view would be that United States remains a superpower. United States remains our largest export destination. So we should try to have normal relations with United States. We don't have any joint military or defense opportunity as we have had during Cold War or even till the pullout of US forces. So we should not try to antagonize, but if push comes to shove, if Trump presidency pushes harder on Pakistan to isolate ourselves from China, this would not be acceptable to Pakistan. However, the entertainment around this election has been that since some people from Mr. Khan have a great relationship with some members of Trump family, so by the time he gets in office, he will just try to push Pakistan to go easy on Mr. Khan.
You mentioned a tweet by Mr. Zalmi Khalilzad as well. Do you think his view is realistic?
I think he is trying to be a small lobbyist for both Mr. Khan's party, and it might be a small CV presentation by him to get some kind of position from Trump administration. I seriously doubt that he will get anything except a few viewership and readership on social media. Other than that, it won't make any difference. He's the one who pleaded Reagan for Afghan Mujahideen, if you remember. And he's the one who handed over millions of Afghans to these Taliban current rulers that no country in the world recognizes. So I think it really is nothing but, getting some headlines in Pakistan. In US, it won't make any difference. And I do not believe that Trump administration would exert any pressure on Pakistan to go easy on PTI or Mr. Khan, because they don't get anything by doing so that fits the national and international agenda of Mr. Trump.
Thank you so much, Mr. Murtaza, for joining us for another very insightful and candid discussion on one of the most important international issues right now. Keep watching this program, The Weekend. Thank you so much for joining us.